not a good sign when you're still making changes to the talk wire. The last song. But good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming out today and welcome to the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. It's good to see everybody here today. I keep forgetting to do this, but I want to give a welcome to the viewers who may be watching on YouTube. We had a break in our link for a while, and we missed some of the talks, but that link is fixed now. And so for those who are watching on YouTube, I want to welcome you as well. And I want you to invite you that if you're ever in our area, we'd like to have you stop by and be a part of one of our services. And I promise you that we will do our absolute best to make you feel right at home. So, welcome to all. There was a lady who was stopped at a traffic light, and a gentleman approached her car. He was in tattered clothes and whatnot, and he had a cardboard sign asking for money. And she looked at him, and she rumbled in her purse and got out her wallet, and she reached in, she took out $1 and rolled down her window. She didn't roll down her window. You know, they don't do that anymore. I am so stuck in a previous century. And she put $1 in his hand, and he thanked her, and she looked at him and she said, "You know, I'm not giving you that because I think you deserve it. I'm giving that to you because it makes me happy." And he looked at her and he said, "Well, if you'd give me that 20 that's in there next to it, you'd really be happy."
Probably true.
Probably. The year was 1959, and a young mother of two was struggling. She was in Sequim, Washington, and she was having a hard time making ends meet. She worked as a switchboard operator. She wasn't the only one in her area that was struggling. The people in the apartment across the hall were struggling equals well. They had 4 little girls, and times were tough. Her husband had really never recovered from the war, and one day 5 years earlier he just left. He just walked out the door and never came back. And so she was trying to do all of this by herself. And her next door neighbor, Teresa, helped so much. She took care of the kids after school. She watched her oldest boy and took him to school 3 days a week. So her friend across the hall was just a dear, dear friend. And it was coming up on Thanksgiving, and she was looking at what they might be able to have for a Thanksgiving dinner, and she opened the cupboard, and there wasn't anything in there but one bag of beans. And she'd had beans a lot, and spaghetti, and tuna casserole, and all the things that she could make for the least amount of money. And so she thought, well, I'll see what else there is. And there was no hamburger to give a little flavor, no ham hock that she could boil with it. The only thing she had was 1 onion. And she thought, well, at least that onion will give the beans a little flavor. And she felt grateful. She was grateful that she at least had the beans, and she was grateful that she had an onion. And just about then there was a knock on the door, and it was Teresa. And she said, "Hey, Lois," she said, "I was wondering if I could borrow an onion." She said, "We're having beans and I don't have anything in it." And without even thinking, Lois said, "Sure, I have one." And she went to her cupboard and took out the only onion she had, and she gave her last onion to her friend. Not out of a sense of owing her something because a friend had done so much for her, but out of a sense of true love, of doing something for someone who meant so much to her. And she gave it not from a position of lack and limitation. I only have so much, I can't give up what I had, but from a genuine sense of I want to do something for someone that I care about. And after the door shut, she kind of realized what she'd done. And she thought, oh my. And then she thought, well, I guess we'll just have some pretty plain beans for Thanksgiving this year. And then she remembered what her mother had taught her. And her mother had taught her, she thought it might have come from the Bible, but she wasn't too sure, that if you give from your heart with love, it's going to return to you tenfold. And she thought, yeah, that might not happen. I don't know. And she thought, I don't think I'm going to open the cupboard and all of a sudden see 10 onions in there. But there might be one left in the cupboard, in the pantry. No, there were no onions in there either. So she went to go perform the next house cleaning task she had or whatever it was. And she started to work, and there's another knock at the door. I wonder, maybe it's Teresa coming back. And she looked. No, it was the Watkins man. Now, I'm sure several of you have no idea what the Watkins man is. There are a lot of people who didn't know what a switchboard operator was either. The Watkins man was a door-to-door salesman, and the Watkins man sold kind of kitchen stuff. He had some spices, some high-end spices and good things, and then, handy kitchen appliances, a potato peeler instead of an old paring knife, just things like that. But Lois had no money for anything from the Watkins man, and she told him, sorry, you're in the wrong apartment here. I have no money. I couldn't buy anything. And one look around that very sparse apartment, and the Watkins man knew there wasn't going to be a sale there that day, and so he didn't even bother taking out his samples or his supplies or anything, and he started to go, and he thanked her anyway. And as he left, he said, oh, wait a minute, there is something. He said, you might be interested in some of the, no, I am not interested. I have no money. We're not getting, no, he said, these are free. The company wants to see if people have any interest in this, if you might be interested in any way, and they're free. And she said, well, as long as there's no charge, I guess it can't hurt. Sure, what it is. And she thanked him, and she got this little envelope and headed back into the kitchen, waved goodbye to the Watkins man, and she looked down, and in that moment, she knew that her life was changing. It was changing in a profound way. And sure enough, within a short amount of time after that, she met a guy, and they've now celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. And she got a promotion at work, and her life turned around after that. But as she looked down at that envelope, she couldn't help but smile, because in the envelope, on a trial basis, were dehydrated, flaked onions. Enough for 10 onions.
I like that story.
Meister Eckhart said, if the only prayer that you ever say in your whole life is thank you, that would suffice. Here's the condensed version, the Cliff Notes version of today's talk. If you don't get it, this is it, right here. It's all about gratitude. Now, what we do in this center and this philosophy is all based on principle. And the principle that this is based on, the principle that our thoughts are creative. Where we focus our attention is what we draw more into our life. And so this whole thing with gratitude allows us to move from a place where we are focused on what we don't have, or we want and don't have, or we don't want in our lives, which would be lack and limitation, and turns us then to focus our attention on that which we already have, and that's what we are grateful for, and our attention then creates more of that in our lives. It's really pretty simple, and what a wonderful time of year. What a wonderful thing to do to have a formal way, a channel, a structure in which we can give thanks. I know when I grew up, I always thought, they got the holidays backwards. We should have Christmas first, and then we should have Thanksgiving.
We almost do.
Well, if we keep moving earlier and earlier, that's what we will have. But I submit that it works out perfect exactly the way it is. I think of Jesus of Nazareth and in his teaching. And the first thing that Jesus did was always to give thanks. When Jesus rose Lazarus from the dead, they rolled away the tomb, and the first thing that Jesus did was to give thanks. This has been taught in our movement, our philosophy, for a long, long time. In India, the elephant is revered, and elephants are kind of a hard animal to work with. I mean, they're big and they're strong, and they got these trunks in the front. They're always getting in trouble, and they're doing things. And India, for a long time, their elephants, and it was a mess. They were knocking over stalls and everything else with their trunk and everything else. But they discovered that if they just would give a bamboo stalk to the elephant, the elephant would hold the bamboo stalk with its trunk, and they could lead it all the way through the village, and it would be very docile, and it would pay attention, and all it would do is hold that bamboo with its trunk. And we're a lot like that. If we get something that we can hold on to, we can keep moving it. And that act of gratitude keeps us moving forward. Instead of letting us wander all around, causing all kinds of damage, if we stay focused on gratitude, we can accomplish the things that we want. Gratitude. It's even a step in our 5-step process of affirmative prayer. When we finish describing what it is we want, when we give form, create the mold for what it is we want more of our life, the next thing we do is give thanks for it. We give thanks for that which is coming now. Holmes said, and it was in our sacred reading, an attitude of gratitude is most salutary, and it bespeaks the realization that we are now in heaven. That's so powerful. An attitude of gratitude is most salutary, for it bespeaks the realization that we are now in heaven. We take our attention away from the fact that we don't have any onions, and we can focus it on what we do have, beans. And sometimes the universe... A lady by the name of Deb Sandella. She is a practitioner in the lower 48. She's an author. She's an amazing gal. Got a PhD in philosophy. She's quite famous. She gives workshops and everything all over. And many years ago, she led a spiritual retreat to Machu Picchu, Peru. And part of their experience was to spend time with and actually live with the local Peruvians and they actually lived with some of the people. And high in the Andes, a lot of the people that they were living with had no running water. They lived in adobe shacks, very often one-room adobe shacks. And what they discovered is these Peruvian people were so welcoming, so loving, so generous, that in the hikes that they had to go there, some of the people on the pilgrimage had blisters, and the Peruvians were so kind. They would open up and share their limited supply of antibiotics to make sure that they didn't get any infections or anything like that. They just kindness overflowing. And of course the Americans, looking at it, oh my, these people are so poor. They have so very little. We can't take that. Oh, no, we couldn't possibly take that. And they felt guilty at taking the food and whatnot. But they had a Peruvian guide who was very intuitive, and he knew and he could see what was going on. And he kind of got the Americans together, and he convinced them, he showed them, this is an opportunity for you to improve your receiving skills. This is an opportunity for you to be grateful, to express gratitude. Take what they're offering and love them for it. And as they stepped in, they began to do this. And this is what Deb Sandella wrote. We were given a great opportunity to expand our willingness to receive. By allowing reciprocity and feeling unconditional thankfulness, these simple people with little material means were honored, and we became equals. I didn't like the way she phrased that. I wouldn't call them simple people, but people who were able to live a life of simplicity, were able to share what they had, and in accepting it, they were honored, and we became equals. When we give to others out of neediness, we disempower. To give and receive with a feeling of equality is transformative. Each of us, wealthy and poor, fully abled or handicapped, are rich beyond belief. We are vibrant, living beings who have inherited an immense capacity for deepest tenderness, love, and generosity. John F. Kennedy said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. And we've just completed our pledge campaign, or it's drawing to a close. I hope that you have taken the time to prayerfully consider a donation to our center to help us spread this powerful philosophy and way of being. And I think it's only fitting now that with this understanding of the importance of gratitude in our daily practices, that we actually get out and practice, that we actually get out and do this. Not just utter the words of gratitude, but to live by them. And so I think it's only appropriate now for me to sit down and shut up so we can go in and eat. But before we do, I think it's appropriate for us to express our sincere gratitude. And so in this moment, we just simply recognize that we have been so very, very blessed. We are so fortunate to have all of the things that we have. And we are truly grateful. We are grateful for the food. We're grateful for those who have prepared it. We're grateful for this place that we can come together and share in safety. We are grateful for this philosophy. We are grateful for all of the transformation that occurs in this center, daily, weekly, monthly, and every year. And so we do. We just step back and we give profound and sincere thanks. And it was with a joyous heart that we release our gratitude out into the world. We let it go, we let it be, and so it is.